Hello, beauties. My name is Julia. I wanted to come on and share a bit of an insight and a realization that I have had this week with you. Um, I guess about a bit of my own journey and how I've developed over the last few years and become more in touch with my own strength and inner warrior aspect of achieving my goals and creating the life for myself that I really want. So, when I was younger, I was very driven, very hardworking, and when I had a goal that I wanted to achieve, I went for it. In university, I was an almost straight A student, but I was a bit of a homebody. Aside from going to the occasional birthday party or celebration, I wasn't really much of a drinker or a partier. At the time, I was in school because I wanted to become a counselor, and I thought that that was the way that I had to do it. I knew that getting into grad school, especially as a psychology student, was challenging, but I thought that that was what I had to do in order to get the job that I wanted. So I studied hard, really hard, got tutoring when I needed it. I wrote and rewrote whatever paper or assignment I had to get the grades that I needed. Everything looked great on paper, but there was one important aspect that I had overlooked. And this aspect ultimately stopped me from reaching my goal and stopped me from continuing my pursuit of actually going to grad school and becoming the counselor that I thought I wanted to become. And this aspect was that I didn't have a full and complete belief in myself. You see, I really wanted to help people. And I wanted to help people create loving relationships with each other, but ultimately with themselves. And at the time, I didn't understand how much of this was motivated by my own internal desire to love myself more. I kept looking for this solution of loving myself more in all of the wrong places. I looked for it in my relationships, my friendships. I looked for it in drugs and alcohol. In a lot of ways, I just felt like I was a complete failure and couldn't figure out where I was going wrong. I kept subconsciously creating this story of all of the things that I wasn't and all of the reasons that I couldn't achieve my goals, that I wasn't smart enough, not capable enough, not hardworking enough. I ended up falling into a pretty deep depression my last year of university and ended my 3-year relationship when my grandmother had passed away. I felt completely lost and completely out of control. How did I go from being a straight A student, mostly, from dropping out of my honors thesis class, smoking weed every day, bouncing from one relationship to the next, and feeling like a complete fraud in the way that I was showing up? Because no one knew the real me. No one knew what I was experiencing or what I was actually feeling. I knew I wanted a deeper connection, and I knew that I wanted more out of life. But I often felt this heavy energy that it just lingered over me, especially over my heart. And at first, I thought that I could just run from this. I thought I could run from the patterns of self-destruction. So I moved across the country and had this desire to create something different. But the habits and the mental attitude eventually followed me and caught up with me. What was wrong with me? I kept asking myself, why aren't I happy? Why can't I just find what I'm looking for? But I've had no idea what that actually was. So I didn't get it. I felt like I had done everything that I was told to do, everything that I was supposed to do. So why wasn't I happy? What was missing? At the time, I went from building a very successful academic career that in my mind felt quite purposeful and that I was very proud of. But I also felt like a failure. I had this undercurrent running through my mind that I could never actually achieve what I wanted to because someone else was always going to be better than me. Someone else would probably get like the thing, the grades, the job over me. And in my mind, there just wasn't any point in fully trying. Of course, at the time, I didn't actually realize that when I was in school going through this process. A few years had passed, and while I had had a bit of a fluctuation in this like mode of thinking, it still began to sink in heavier into my subconscious. And I began to feel a lot of guilt and shame for the ways that I had been showing up in the world. The habit of using drugs or stealing or cheating on my partners or being unavailable and unattached, drifting from one job to another when I knew that I wanted more and that I was capable of more. I hit what I would call my first rock bottom a few years ago, and I knew that something needed to change. So I reached out to join my first group coaching program. And this program absolutely changed my life. For the first time in what felt like a long time, I felt inspired. I felt alive and like I had a purpose again. I felt more connected with my desires than I ever had. And not only that, I started taking action on the things that I had been too scared to even admit to myself that I wanted. It felt incredible. It was a great program, and it helped me open my eyes in a lot of different ways. The only problem was that when it ended, I found myself in the same boat with the same feelings that I had started off with. It created a great amount of inspiration in me, but I didn't have the momentum to keep that going for myself outside of the program. I was still looking for like a validation outside of myself, something outside of me to keep me moving forward, to give me the answers that I was looking for. I felt like I ended up back where I started, alone and not sure where to go next. What was I working on? What was I passionate about? What did I really need to be happy? And where was my home? I traveled far and wide to find these answers, but often looking in the wrong places. I kept looking outside of myself for the next expert, the next guru who would have the answers that I was looking for, all the while not realizing that the reason I felt so lost was because I was continually giving my power away to these experts who knew what I needed to be happy. I signed up for more one-on-one coaching and then another group program and then another group program, all of which were great programs and that all offered me support and answers that I felt like I needed. But the problem was that I was looking for these programs and these coaches to sustain me and my enthusiasm rather than turning my gaze inward and connecting with that spark that was inside of myself first. The irony that I discovered through working with these coaches was that I was actually the one that had the power the whole time. I was the expert, and I was the only one who knew what I needed. One of my coaches had suggested the book Mindset to me by Carol Dweck. And after listening to just a few chapters of this book, I had a huge insight around my own mindset that just changed everything for me. I was living from a fixed mindset, not a growth mindset. Along the way, somewhere in my life, I had decided that as a fixed mindset that I couldn't change, that I couldn't get the highest grade or the dream job or be the smartest or the funniest or have the most friends. And I thought that being antisocial or having stage fright was just who I was. I didn't know that this was something that was created, cultivated, and grown within me. which is the growth mindset. I didn't realize that it was something that I could change. I thought I either was or I wasn't. And quite frankly, I thought that I wasn't. This realization created a huge shift for me because this was the piece that I felt like I was missing. I knew that I was a hard worker and that when I did have that purpose and that drive, that nothing could really stop me, but I just didn't fully believe in my abilities to create the life that I wanted, which stopped me from actually putting that action forward. I was afraid to admit it, and I was ashamed that I thought this way about myself, and that I wasn't showing up in the way that I knew I could, all because of a belief and a mindset that I had created throughout my lifetime. I had no one to blame but myself. Not that I like to place blame, but to just hold myself responsible. And the more I looked for others to solve these issues for me, the more these issues kept showing up. At my core, I was and I am very independent as a person, and I take pride in being able to do the things that I want to by myself. But what I realized was that I was holding myself back time and time again by not actually asking for the help that I needed. In a lot of ways, I was asking for help, such as by doing these programs, but I was coming from a place of wanting the other person to have the solutions for me, to just give me the answers so that I could do it, without realizing that what I really needed the whole time was to connect with my own inner leader, my own warrior, my own system that was going to pull me forward. That change wasn't going to happen until I was ready to make that change happen within myself. My coaches couldn't encourage me, or they could encourage me all they wanted, but that to become my own leader and to guide myself was something that I had to do for myself. It was my own insight, and as long as I was looking for this solution outside of me, then it was never truly available to me. Throughout this journey and throughout this process, I discovered 3 important things. The first, that I had to admit to myself that I was acting in ways and in essence that I was codependent. It honestly pains me to admit this, and it's a little embarrassing if I do say so myself, but I was just relying way too much on other people to solve my problems and to have the answers for me. I was looking for the answers from a place of, I'm not good enough. I don't have what it takes. And the solution I discovered was to tap into my own inner warrior, to focus more internally on what I do have and what is available to me, what I do know. I connected with my own deepest desires, needs, and wants. I figured out my true why, that anchor of who I am inside of me. I connected with the thing that was going to propel me forward, my mission, and what I really wanted to create and do in the world, how I wanted to make an impact, how I could fully live my purpose. I connected with my own power and my own strengths and who I am at my core. The second important discovery that I made was how to change my belief system. This was a process that took a few years and was something that I learned through these coaching programs as well, but having the ability to tap into the beliefs that were holding me back completely shifted things for me. Being able to see my own mindset and the ways that this mindset was creating the life that I was living. I determined how to develop that growth mindset instead, a success mindset, a mindset that will allow me to accomplish my wildest dreams. I discovered how to actually believe in myself and how to make self-love a daily habit and practice. I no longer look for other people to give me that validation or that feeling of being loved, because it's something that I can cultivate inside of myself and do so on a regular basis. The third important thing that I recognized was the importance of surrounding myself with people who are of a like mind, who want to better themselves. I discovered the importance of what is called a mastermind, a group of people who are dedicated to and committed to something in life. They're on a journey of creating this as well. For the longest time in my own life, I didn't really have role models. There were people I admired, but no one that I really emulated myself after, because I was too distracted with trying to figure out who I actually was rather than who I wanted to be. But there was something very important about knowing where I was going so that I could actually stay focused on that thing. Because I had this incredible habit of looking inward, but for the things that were wrong, the things that needed to be healed, rather than focusing on my own true light and how to connect with those more brilliant aspects of myself that I could see in the other people around me. This is what keeps us moving forward on a daily basis, knowing what we're moving towards. I needed the accountability and to be surrounded by people who were going places in life. But most importantly, I needed to feel like I was one of these people, which back when I was in university, I didn't. I felt like I was a fraud. I felt like I was doing the work and putting in, like, I was doing the motions, but I didn't feel like I belonged in that setting. Napoleon Hill says that whatever the mind can believe and conceive, the mind can achieve, regardless of how many times you failed. And I didn't understand this fully at the time when I read it, but I do now. And above all, I choose to believe in myself and in my abilities. And I would love to help you do the same. My dream is to see people living at their fullest potential, to be surrounded by people who love themselves fully, who aren't afraid to show up as they really are, who desire to work with people and who want to make a difference in the world, and people that are willing to do whatever it takes to create the life that they've always wanted. If this is something that you want in your life as well, please, I invite you to check out the link below. I've got some incredible programs, courses, things going on, and I would love to connect with you and see how we can work together to create this shift inside of you. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video today and for acknowledging and recognizing how you can be showing up more powerfully in the world, how you might be holding yourself back, how you might be giving your power away or seeking that love and validation outside of yourself. And not to say that there's anything wrong with that from time to time, but to know at your core that your love for yourself is the only true thing that matters. Your own desire to create your dreams is the only thing that is going to keep you moving forward. I often came from a place of seeking this validation, but needing to be motivated by something externally rather than internally. And it was only once I began to turn everything inward that I really created those shifts that I needed to see my life as I wanted to see it, to find that happiness that I was really looking for. And I know that this is 100% available for you as well. So again, much love to you. Thank you for your beautiful energy, for showing up, for admitting to yourself what it is that you really need in this moment. And I look forward to connecting with you on your journey. Peace and love, my friends.